It's been a grim 24 hours in Jammu and Kashmir in what is being called one of the deadliest terror strikes in recent memory. 28 lives have been snatched away in that cowardly attack in the usually peaceful tourist hub of Pahalgam. Tourists have been gunned down by the Lashkar-linked terrorists, reportedly members of the Resistance Front, the TRF, which is a shadowy proxy outfit nurtured across the border. And this is not really just an intelligence lapse. It's a diplomatic challenge. It's a national security flashpoint. It's a real test of political will as well. And as Prime Minister Modi convened that all-powerful Cabinet Committee on Security at his residence with the top ministers in attendance, global reactions have been pouring in. A call from the US Vice President JD Vance to the Prime Minister brought with it America's condemnation. And yes, there was President Donald Trump's message as well of support. Washington is ready to stand shoulder to shoulder with India is what the message is indicating. But that raises some thorny questions as well. How should India recalibrate its response, whether it's militarily or diplomatically or economically? What's the roadmap when the red lines get blurred and trust is shattered? Let's go across for more details of that meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security. And for that, my colleague Samir Dikshit is joining us from Delhi. Samir, what have we learned so far about any decisions that may have been taken at that meet?
So that's the crucial meet it took at the 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, the official PM residence, over the Pahalgam terror strike. And this meeting, the Cabinet Committee on Security, headed by Prime Minister Modi, was attended by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, was attended by Home Minister Amit Shah, Rajnath Singh, the Defence Minister, and Ajit Doval, NSA. He was there in the meeting along with other officials. So what we are picking up from our sources that Amit Shah gave a detailed sort of a presentation and apprised the committee and the PM that what led to the terror strike at the Pahalgam and what could be the possible reason. There is one important aspect in this entire exercise that there are questions that has been raised related to the failure of the intelligence that was also a part of discussion in this meeting. But the most important question that how India is going to retaliate and what could be the likely steps that Indian government might take in future course of time. But we are picking up from our sources that India will not retaliate immediately in the sense that some sort of immediate action you might not see. But yes, India is trying to prepare itself for the big action which might take place in coming days or months. But for the same, India will definitely prepare itself when it comes to the logical proofs to counter this particular terror attack. And also, a dossier might be prepared by India in the next 48 to 72 hours. That dossier will contain the proofs that what sort of involvement the Pakistan or the cross-border terrorism had in this particular terror strike. And once the dossier is prepared, once India corners of Pakistan, then we might see that from three particular angles, from the economic angle, from the diplomatic angle, and from other perspective also, we might see that India will try to bring down Pakistan to the knees from economic front, from the diplomatic front. And that is what the roadmap is being prepared by the Indian government. But that's the crucial meet that took place at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg today at 6 p.m., headed by Prime Minister and was attended by the other ministers. And India is trying to prepare a roadmap that how they are going to retaliate.
Very much, and we'll wait for more details of that dossier. Samir, filling us in on that meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security, which has taken place at the Prime Minister's residence. But of course, to decode what's in store, and we are tracking what word comes out from the Ministry of External Affairs as well. And my colleague is constantly tracking that. We'll connect with her shortly, but let's speak to our panelists tonight. MM Ansari is former CIC and he's an interlocutor for J&K. Also joining us is Group Captain retired Augustine Vinod, the defense expert who's been tracking insurgency and counter-terror operations for decades. So it's good to have both of you gentlemen. Mr. Ansari, to you first. My colleague was just briefing us on the Cabinet Committee on Security. They've met under the Prime Minister's chairmanship. Tell us, what do you think are the policy-level decisions that can be expected that would be now on the table that we could see as part of that dossier?
Well, at this point in time, it is difficult to predict as to what would be our India's response. But the fact remains that the security arrangements that we have had for a very long time and that we have found it very effective ever since the Pulwama attack took place, what has been done is that the India prepared the legal framework under which all the separatist leaders, including those who are alleged to be involved in terror activities, they have been put behind the bars. There are as many as 3,000 some such people who are behind the bars, and therefore we don't expect much from the internal Jammu and Kashmir side to be reaction. At the same time, as far as the security concerns are concerned, as you know, that our armed forces, at least as many as 1/3 of Indian Army is posted on the borders of Jammu and Kashmir, and there is a perfect coordination between the various intelligence agencies as well as the security forces, and they have been managing very well. But unfortunately, the manner in which this incident has erupted, it is really, we have to think back as to what kind of security arrangements we have to have, because India has followed the zero tolerance approach, under which every care has been taken to see that the terror infrastructure within Jammu and Kashmir has been dismantled. At the same time, the Pakistan has been also, the issue coming from Pakistan has been raised at the international levels also. So, insofar as security issues are concerned, we have taken due care of almost everything.
And yet
what is important is to now review and look back where things have gone wrong.
Yes. Indeed, Mr. Ansari, but despite that zero tolerance towards terrorism, we have this incident. It's a dastardly act, no doubt. It has taken place and innocent tourists have been targeted. Group Captain Vinod, as someone who's seen the operational side of counter-terror measures, do you see this attack as a tactical surprise, or do you think it's a systemic failure, something that the Cabinet Committee on Security would look at more closely and try to plug the holes on?
Absolutely. And for the sake of our viewers, which is why I put the map behind me, because people who have not been to the valley won't understand the nuances and the difficulty the security forces face every single day in the valley to keep the peace. And the problem is terrain. And if you see here, the Srinagar is up here, and Pahalgam is right here. So Pahalgam has two valleys coming in from the north, and they have the local support. 80 to 100 kilometers is the nearest border. So these terrorists have come in, and they've been supported by the overground workers, and they've been probably given food, shelter, or even weapons from the stash and ammunition, etc., to carry out this dastardly attack. And two are foreign terrorists and two are local terrorists. So it's a 50-50 contribution from people from the valley as well as from across the border. And they took their time. It was not like 2611. 2611 was free for all firing. Whoever came in, the burst and died. And they also came prepared to die. Give themselves up, blow themselves up. This was not like that. This was more like 7th October, which happened in Israel. So they took, if you look at the similarities between 7th October attack and this attack, there's a lot of similarities. These people have called them, asked them for the I card, in some cases stripped them naked to, isolate Hindus from the others, and taken their time to give a double tap. If you look at the bullet holes, one to the sternum, one to the head. That is the kind of execution that has been done, and that is not possible unless you have a local support.
Right.
That is point number one. Point number two, which I feel most experts feel that way, is that we, post abrogation of 370, should have continued the president's rule for a while. Lieutenant General should have been at the helm of affairs for little extended time. Did we rush into this election? Is under the pressure from Supreme Court, is a big question that one needs to ask, because a lot of OGWs, lot of our gentleman said, separatists are now in mainstream, and one is in jail running his constituency fellow from the jail. So these are the people who have a leaning from across the border. And most
Let me take that
importantly,
across to Mr. Ansari. Mr. Ansari, would you agree with what Augustine Vinod is saying? Did we rush into this to be able to give away President's rule under pressure from the Supreme Court?
Well, I think that will be a very undemocratic measure. That I wouldn't say because at the time when we have been considering, I mean, there has been a demand for giving the full statehood to the state. When we again go for imposing, say, president rule, it is already, I mean, as an UT, the Lieutenant Governor is all powerful. As you know, what happens in Delhi, likewise in Jammu Kashmir, the Chief Minister is not as powerful as it used to be, or the Chief Ministers of any other state. So much of the powers rest with the Lieutenant Governor. At the same time, we have the operation of all the security forces. We have the army, we have the CRPF, we have the BSF, and their intelligence also they have been working. At the same time, Jammu and Kashmir is the one area where you have all kinds of laws. You have the PSA, AFSA, UNPA, etc. And therefore, in the last 6-7 years, after abrogation of 370, attempt had been made to tighten the security grid, and the government has identified all the people who are the sympathizers with the separatist leaders, and those who are alleged to be separatists, they are all put behind the bars. To say that they are still terrorists or the separatists who are roaming around on the roads, I won't believe it, because the security has been tightened. And as I mentioned to you, the legal framework is such that most of them, either they are put behind the bar under UAPA or
yes.
PSA or AFSA or PMLA, etc., etc. And at the same time, if you look at the coordination of our armed forces, the CRPF, etc., they have been working perfectly all right. But this incident has happened, and therefore,
begs the question.
I think our security measures should review where things have gone wrong.
And which is exactly what I imagine would be happening right now, Mr. Ansari. But over the years, we've seen several peace overtures from India. The Agra summit in 2001, Vajpayee's Lahore bus yatra, even the Prime Minister's surprise stopover that was in Lahore in 2015. Yet Kashmir continues to be this flashpoint. I want to ask you, why do you think we have these peace initiatives consistently failing to produce any tangible results? Are we underestimating the structural depth of the deadlock that we have here?
Frankly speaking, we have had our armed conflict, which has not yielded the desired results. And therefore, frankly speaking, we have the guerrilla war going on between the two countries, and Kashmir remains, as you said, the flashpoint. So that has not yielded the result. But at the same time, ultimately, what we see that the military and the army is not the solution. Ultimately, we have to sit across the table after fighting the war, or even much before, and we did it in 72. You may remember the Shimla agreement happened, where both the countries, India and Pakistan, agreed to resolve the issue, and they had also made the provision that in case we are able to unable to resolve our disputes, we may appoint the third party mediator with mutual consent. And it is in this context that in the earlier regime, President Trump had offered himself for mediation, and only yesterday when our Prime Minister visited Saudi King has, I am told, has also offered to help India in mediating the whole matter. So the whole question is the kind of guerrilla war going on, the armed conflict is not working, and also the negotiation between the two countries are not happening at this point in time. We do not have any diplomatic relation with Pakistan. So we need to really look at it.
Yes.
Because
so
what I see is that we do not have any economic relations, we do not have any diplomatic relations.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but we'll have to-
ultimately we have to establish if we really want to do this.
Yes, if we want to engage them
I may also
diplomatically.
mention
Yes.
that the India and Pakistan are the only two countries which do not have the defined borders.
Correct.
And Jammu and Kashmir is partly occupied by China, partly occupied by Pakistan, and this requires really the negotiation of all the concerned parties.
So you're
Only
saying there
then
is
I
room
think
for more
this can be
diplomacy
resolved.
over
But
here.
as far as
Yes.
the terror activities are concerned, the government has done enough to contain it. I don't know what is left behind.
So what
else the government can do now?
So what can be the kind of roadmap that the Ministry of External Affairs would launch at this stage? Considering what has happened in Pahalgam, considering the attempts being made on the diplomatic front in the past, what could be the strain that they would be following? Let's connect with my colleague Sumita Karit. She's joining us. She's been tracking everything that's happening in that ministry, and she's with us. Sumita, tell us what you've heard.
Yes, in fact, Vikram, this briefing was to begin now, but it's been delayed. I think, the ministry officials are waiting for the CCS, which is the crucial meet of the Cabinet Committee of Security that's going on to perhaps discuss the shocking terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam that actually claimed at least 25 lives. So External Affairs Ministry officials, including a Foreign Secretary as well, External Affairs Minister, are part of that briefing that's currently going on. And this briefing will begin only once that gets over. And of course, chorus has been building up on what India's response is going to be as far as that terror attack is concerned. And of course, we've heard from several diplomatic experts, including Kawal Sibal, who's tweeted about the fact that it's time to suspend Indus Waters Treaty indefinitely as a truly meaningful response to this carnage that was carried out by and instigated by Pakistan. Well, another option that many have been mulling over, or at least diplomatic experts have been talking about, is the fact that India needs to cease its diplomatic relations with Pakistan as far as the High Commissioner and the embassy as far as that is concerned in that country. So we'll have to see what really comes out of it. And because remember, when Pulwama happened, there were limited strikes that were launched. And could there be that sort of a response? Because India had hit back, conducting a surgical strikes and airstrikes on terror camps that was all across the LOC. Will there be that kind of a response? We'll have to wait and see on what really comes out of this briefing. But the briefing could begin in the next 15 to 20 minutes is what we're given to understand.
All right, we'll come back to you as soon as we hear more about the stance taken by the Ministry of External Affairs. And of course, the briefings are going to be very crucial. But let me cut across to Group Captain Augustine Vinod again. You know, my colleague was just talking about the Pulwama terror attack in 2019. Of course, India responded with the airstrikes, the Balakot airstrikes that have gone down in history. But before that, we had the surgical strikes in 2016. Both were seen as these strong military responses that were aimed at deterrence. But here we are again with another deadly strike, this time in Pahalgam, this time targeting civilians and tourists. Doesn't it raise questions about the long-term efficacy of these responses?
Absolutely. In fact, I understand the pain of Mr. Ansari, who comes from the valley, because I'm sure his brethren and his relatives are in the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, in the POK. So, I mean, they have been separated since 1947. And like him, there are many families whose brothers are on the other side or sisters are on the other side, and mama, chacha, taya are on the other side. And which is the reason why, and it is also like Asim Munir mentioned, the thorn between India and Pakistan, and he said there is jugular vein. So the ultimate the solution, I think, which is what we should be going for, and about which Rajnath Singh ji not once, twice he talked about, and once he talked about on the floor of the parliament, is to reunite Mr. Ansari and his brothers.
This would be unfair. We are not making any personal comments.
No, we are not making.
No. This would be completely unfair and out of line. No. One cannot accept that.
It is. We need to get both the J&K together as one. That is when the final the solution is going to be, because at the end, if you look at the land, the way lay of the land is, at the end of the other side of the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir is plains. So once we get both the Kashmir together, you can border the plain like we have bordered the plains of Rajasthan, and it will be a final solution. There will never be war. I can give it
What
to
is
you
the
in
route
writing.
that you see for this kind of arrangement to take place?
Has to take place because that is what is the
Are you looking at a diplomatic route, is what I'm asking?
diplomatic route. They failed. Till date, diplomatic routes or separatist routes,
But
talks, Aman ki Asha,
But have we
selling
failed to
pyaz.
shift the deterrence equation with the kind of activity that we are
Deterrence is
seeing from
not working.
Pakistan-backed
Twice
terror
we gave
outfits?
deterrence,
Even the
it
surgical
didn't
strikes
work.
haven't helped, sir.
I know it was a rap on the knuckle. It didn't work. It worked for a while, and again you see now they've see. I totally sympathize and empathize with the people of the valley because they have a lot of ties from in POJK, and that is the tie which is uniting them. It is high time we unite both, make it into one state. It is high time we do that, and
Mr.
once and
Ansari,
for all.
what, in your opinion, Mr. Ansari, in your opinion, has India relied too heavily on tactical retaliation rather than investing in sustained diplomatic or political solutions? Could a broader strategic reset, which includes dialogue with stakeholders, could that offer a more lasting
work.
path to peace? Mr. Ansari.
Well, we have the experience of all these kind of tactics that we have followed in the past. We have had armed conflict also. The Prime Minister said, "हम घुस के मारेंगे," और ऐसा हुआ भी. But what have we achieved? Ultimately, if you see the armed conflict, what has happened in Gaza, what have happened in Ukraine, ultimately we achieved nothing. And mind it, both the countries are the nuclear war head. They have the nuclear warhead, and the entire region will be wiped out. Therefore, let us not think of any military action because that option has been considered at many a time, and that has not been exercised. But at the same time, ultimately we need to sit across the table and find out. And at this point in time, the entire world is with India, and they are sympathizing with us, and therefore that goodwill is available with us, and we need to exploit and make use of it and try to sort out all the differences, because the geopolitics in the whole region, the way kind of nexus that has been emerging, Pakistan, China, and India, China, and you see what is happening in our neighborhood also. So ultimately, I think taking advantage of the international goodwill, we need to sit across the table and establish and have the strong political will and also diplomatic skill to resolve the contentious issues which we have been facing for the last 75 years. Unless and until we sit together, we have our own social, economic, and other relations, we will not be able to resolve. Rather, we will keep on continuing to harm others and get also harmed, and this is what has happened. Because I have been saying, even I have mentioned earlier, that at this point in time, we have the best security arrangement, the security grid which the government of India has tightened.
You did mention that.
We cannot do anything more because we have deployed 1/3 of our...
So you think we have maxed out on that
and
count?
at the same time, if you look at the legal framework is also very much tightened, which we do not have, no other country has it. And almost all the separatists and the sympathizers of the separatism, they have been put behind the bars. What else that is required to be done? Let us see what the Security
Group Captain
Council
Vinod,
has decided
you
ultimately
believe
about
that
our
India,
response. So to my mind, ultimately we need to sit across the table and decide.
I understand your point, but Group Captain Augustine Vinod thinks otherwise. Do you think, Group Captain, that India should revisit the idea of cross-border strikes or hybrid warfare, or do you think this would actually play into the hands of India's enemies?
Absolutely it will, because see, we need to understand
that will be disastrous. That will be disastrous. I may mention...
Mr. Ansari, just a moment. I was just going across to Group Captain for a moment.
Yeah. So here the point is, hitting across is not the solution. We need to understand that people of the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir want to join with India for two reasons. A, they want to join back with their families who were, severed during partition. And they see that the post abrogation of Article 370, itni sari khushali hai valley mein. So they want to be part of that happiness. And enough and more people have gone into POK and found out this particular aspect. And we have cultural connections from both sides. We have 7 or 8, mandirs which are there, looked after and not, gone to ruins by people of POK. So there is a lot if we will lose if we strike into POK. Striking into POK is not the solution. The solution is to get these two brothers together by getting the POK back so that there is lasting peace. But
meanwhile, you have these proxy groups of a Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is, of course, unleashing this kind of violence. The resistance front active again. One wonders if Pakistan has essentially outsourced plausible deniability in doing this, and they've done it consistently in the past.
There is a war plan involving these people. I mean, that war plan is for us to Google and take it in a way. It is available. The first action by Pakistan is to unleash terror on the opponent. In their case, India. So it is like sending your mercenaries first, and then the army, the main army will move in. This kind of tactics have been followed during American Civil War and many other wars, where they put the, when they overthrew czars, they put the farmers first, and then the armed people came in. So in their scheme of things, it is an extended mercenaries or extended the third front that they put up in against India before the main attackers come in. So all this will get, I mean, the final solution is to get JNK as it was pre-1947. My father-in-law studied in and lived in the other,
Yes.
I mean, which is now POK.
Yes.
My father-in-law studied and lived there. So
But
I have heard
tell
from the
me-
horse's mouth how
Yes.
beautiful it is.
Yes, indeed. But given the American offer of this counter-terror assistance, I also want to ask if you think India should formally deepen anti-terror coordination with Washington and take it beyond just intelligence sharing. Do you think that's going to help?
To 100%. And in fact, you see the amount of weapons that we've got post Pulwama is extremely good and different from what was pre-Pulwama. We have Apaches come in now. We have the attack helicopters, indigenous attack helicopters, Prachand. All this is a move or capability building towards fighting in the valley and fighting in the high mountainous regions. So, I mean, we didn't spend billions of dollars just to sit across the table or talk to Pakistan, give them the doors here. No. Our final aim, like Rajnath Singh ji said from the floor of the parliament, our final aim is to get POK back with our JNK. That is our final aim. And if they do it peacefully, they don't have to shed any blood. And we want to do it peacefully. But if they want it the other way, then so be it. We'll give them the other way. And if this is the time to do it, this is the time to do it. And that is the only solution. Everyone, Shimla Accord, this Accord, that Accord. Buses went, buses came. You went for marriage, you came back. Separatists, this, that, everything happened. It yielded zero result. Zero result.
All right. I
Only-
mean, this is going to be a debate that is going to get played out. Of course, the ultimate word coming through from the Ministry of External Affairs and indeed the Cabinet Committee on Security, that dossier that is getting prepared that my colleagues are telling us about, it's going to be an important piece to understand India's stance and what it plans to do with the kind of dastardly act that we've seen. But Mr. Ansari and Group Captain Vinod, thank you very much for joining us at such a crucial juncture. The questions, of course, are very tough. The answers are even tougher. And the choices ahead, even more so. But like we've heard tonight, whether it's policy recalibration or boots on the ground, I don't know. India must now look inward and outward with equal urgency. The nation's security doctrine is being stress tested, and it's imperative that we draw strength, both from experience and strategic clarity. But thank you again, gentlemen, for your time and insight. It's a pleasure having you with us on India Tonight here on